Okay. B 7 C 302. Here we go. Okay. Damn. It's a rental.
Jamie.
Prestige Auto Rentals.
Oh, hello. Look, my car was hit in the parking lot by a black Maserati with your license plate holder on it.
Did you get the number?
I did, actually, yes. It's B7C302.
It's rented to an Ernesto Guerrera. He's listed at 163 Bay Shore. The number is 555-9967.
Thank you so much. Ernesto Guerrero.
See? Who is this?
Your worst nightmare, mate. 2nd Avenue. Busty little thing named Cinder got in your Maserati. Well, I got pictures. And you got trouble.
No, you can't.
Shut up. Now, Ernesto, there's a little alleyway off 2nd Avenue. I want you to be there in an hour with $5,000 cash, all right? Or you'll be reading about yourself in the Post-Dispatch.
Freeze! Miami Vice!
In the city with neon glows, where palm trees sway and the rhythm flows, there's a podcast that's breaking all the codes. It's the Vice of Miami. Here's the story it unloads. Here's the story it unloads. In the darkness of the Miami nights, it deep.
Welcome to the Vice of Miami podcast. I'm your host, Tim, alongside my co-host, Mark, and we're thrilled to take you on a journey through the iconic 80s series, Miami Vice. Each episode, we delve into the gripping world of detectives, Sonny Crockett and Rico Tubbs, and the Vice team, reviewing every episode and uncovering the dark storylines, unforgettable guest stars, and the electrifying music that turned Miami Vice into a cult classic. From trivia and fun facts to the occasional goof, we're here to provide a fresh and engaging perspective, whether you're a longtime fan or new to the series. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us on show number 87 as we explore Season 4, Episode 14, Baseballs of Death.
Tim, before we get into the regulars here, we're recording this New Year's Eve, 2024, so I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025.
Yes, Happy New Year.
So my beverage tonight's going to be maybe a couple glasses of champagne. Maybe just one, if I make it. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, probably a little wine, something like that.
Little vino. Little vino is good. Again, Happy New Year, everybody. This is being released the first full week, so let's get into it. And, oh, by the way, we definitely hope you liked our Christmas episode. That was a lot of hard work by both of us and our other co-host from the other podcast, Vice and Easy podcast and the Manic Movie Monday podcast. But we definitely hope you liked the Christmas episode and can't wait to see what maybe we'll do one for Halloween, just kind of sort of like that, but changed up. What do you think, Tim?
Sounds great, because that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. All right, let's get into this one. This episode's written by Peter Lance, directed by Bill Luke. The original air date, February 19th, 1988. And it's the 82nd episode overall. And our plot summary here, we've got Crockett and Tubbs suspect a Chilean police chief of both murder and dealing in illegal weapons. But they find he's being protected by the federal government. Who could imagine? Checking out the guest stars and the co-stars. First up, we've got Jose Antonio Plana as Ernesto Guerrero. And we actually covered Tony's bio in the episode Give a Little, Take a Little.
Next up, we have Mark Howes Metcalf, born March 11th, 1946 in Findlay, Ohio. And he is an American actor who portrayed DEA agent Brody. He is best known for his role as Douglas C. Niedermeyer, college student in the movie National Lampoon's Animal House. Other movie roles include Julia, Chilly Scenes of Winter, Oscar, One Crazy Summer, and The Field, among others. TV appearances include Karen, Hill Street Blues, L.A. Law, Seinfeld, among several others. Metcalf married Elizabeth Libby Wick from 1989 until their 2005 divorce, and they have one son, Julius. Metcalf was also linked to actresses Glenn Close and Carrie Fisher in the 80s.
A pledge pin on your uniform. Next, we've got Oliver James Platt. He's an American actor who appeared as gun runner Speed Styles. He was born January 12, 1960 in Windsor, Ontario. Some of his movie roles include Caruso, Working Girl, Flatliners, Postcards from the Edge, Beethoven, Tall Tales, among many others. TV roles include ensemble cast member in Chicago Med, The Equalizer, Huff, The West Wing, The Good Wife, and many others. Platt married Mary Camilla Bosnell Campbell in 1992, and they have 3 children.
Next up, we have Lisa Marie Smith, who portrayed Cinder, the prostitute, at the very opening of the episode, who was born December 5th, 1968, in Piscataway, New Jersey. Lisa Marie started her road to acting / modeling by starting in the ballet, studying with the New Jersey Ballet for 8 years, then moving on to the theater. She began modeling as the obsession girl for Calvin Klein's perfume. Movie roles include Alice, Ed Wood, Mars Attacks, The Lords of Salem, and Beauty and the Broken, among others. Lisa Marie began a 9-year relationship with director Tim Burton in 1992. They got engaged on Valentine's Day 1993, and she stayed with him until 2001. She is no longer listed as an active actor.
She was in Mars Attacks. Huh? I like the movie. I'd have to see who she played. Can't recognize her, though. Anyway, moving on, we've got Michael Philip DeBar. He's an English actor and rock singer who appeared as part of the rock band The Power Station in the episode Whatever Works, and as Shane Dubois, a pimp working with Cinder. He was born January 24th, 1948 in London, England. Michael became lead singer of The Power Station when Robert Palmer left the group. Movie roles include To Stir With Love, California Solo, The Goonies, Sugartown, Under Siege, and Pink Cadillac. TV appearances include MacGyver, Melrose Place, St. Elsewhere, Seinfeld, and Nash Bridges, among others. DeBar married Wendy Hamilton in 1974, but the union ended in divorce shortly after when he met infamous rock groupie Pamela Miller. They married in 1977 until their 91 divorce, and they have one son.
Co-stars for this episode are, first up, Frank A. DeVito III as a fuel jockey, Katrina Echeverry as a translator, Steve Gang as Schechter, Dwayne Houston Jr. as the detective, Lester Kerstetter as a waitress, Rafael Lima as Ramon, Larry Litt as Cy, Kevin Quigley as Wiley, Tracy Roberts as the blonde in the club, and Kim St. Leon as the stewardess.
And a little Miami Vice in the news. According to one of our Instagram subscribers of ours, Everglade73, he states that a Miami mansion is once again back on the market for a cool $25 million. It's been decorated by Bunny Williams, which prompted him and I to message back and forth about a character in Miami Vice named Bunny. I was thinking it was Noogie's wife, but no, that's Ample Annie, if you remember. Bunny Berrigan was When Irish Eyes Are Crying episode. He was the cash man. Anyway, this mansion, which is located at 3467 North Moorings Way in Miami, was used in a season 5 episode. So Tim and I are starting a GoFundMe account. So, this is the season of giving still. So let's, we'll have a meeting. We'll have a big meetup down there once we get enough funds, right, Tim?
Yes, we will. And also in the news, besides a starring role in Chicago Men, actor Oliver Platt guest stars on FX's The Bear, which is also set in the Chicago area. Now we're going to begin the discussion for Baseballs of Death. We start out on the streets where a very scantily clad prostitute named Cinder is walking down the street stirring some attention. And she picks up a John while a man named Shane Dubois in an upper-level apartment is taking pictures of the man's car, among other Johns. Cinder comes into Shane's apartment disappointed she hasn't made much money, but Shane has a secret weapon. His pictures are of the car's license plate, and he has a computer linked up to the Florida DMV, who he used to work for, just to run plates. He calls one victim and sets up a time place for bribe money. 5,000 cash, or you're going to read about yourself in the papers, basically. Guerrero was the name of this John, and I believe it was Ernesto Guerrero, and his driver Ramon show up, torches the pictures, and then shoots both of them dead. Dun, 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 dun. A homicide case.
Very long opening sequence. One of the longest.
Very long.
I was thinking, let's go. There's a point to this. There's a point.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, moving on to the murder, or staying at the murder scene, I should say, Metro, and what Vice Team is called in. And Vice Team is called due to Cinder's long prostitution rap sheet. So there's the Vice tie-in of this murder. And Gina was saying that she just busted her last week for something, probably another prostitution thing.
Turning tricks, yeah.
Yep. They find out that her address is listed as some fleabag hotel called the Tropical. So the team, Crockett, Tubbs, and Gina head over to Cinder's hotel room, and they're let in by the shopkeeper there and find that the computer link up to the DMV and tons of film and cameras and a bunch of negatives hanging up there. And they also find some negatives of some of the Johns and Cinder.
And then after a meeting held by DEA agent Brody that Guerrero attends, Brody offers to help unofficially and will have an associate meet him at a bar called Woody's. This is all while Guerrero is smitten with the translator. He was just eyeballing her up and down. I don't think even was listening to Bro. I don't think he was even listening to Brody.
You could tell he was definitely smitten. And I was thinking, okay, is she going to be a victim or is she going to be in play here? But it turns out it was nothing. It was just eyeballs, and that was it.
Just because he has a penchant for the skirt.
Mm-hmm.
So now back at OCB, Crockett is on a phone with a John wondering where he was last night. The team is working on who owns what cars that were photographed. Crockett was talking with a reverend, and Castile walks up and asks if there's anything that's bearing fruit. Tubbs finally gets a fish. They have Guerrero's info, and Castile orders them there before he skips town.
I'm very, very sorry, Reverend. Yes, sorry. Thank you.
Any lead?
No, I'm 0 for 4. I just got a minister who drives a 911, and he was at prayer meeting at the time of the murders.
Anything, anyone.
Goose egg.
Still checking. Most of mine are out. This could take all day.
Can you hold? Just 1 second. Lieutenant, all of mine were awash except for one. Black Maserati was rented by a guy named Guerrero. Skyline Drive over in Biscayne.
Talk about a long shot.
I'll tell Gina and Trudy run theirs down. It's the only live one we got.
Get over to Biscayne, find him. Incidentally, he may try to skip.
And I'm thinking, if you remember the opening scene, he calls the rental agency and they just freely give the information of who rented what, right, Tim?
Right. That wouldn't happen these days.
These days, no. And even back then, I don't think they did. I mean, whatever. Anyway, we are now at this place called Woody's. Guerrero and his man, his driver, arrive at this place, Woody's, to find this contact. Guerrero here is trying to have his helper proposition a lady and have a good time. This guy flashing some cash, but she definitely hits the big rebuff here. It's like, yeah, are you serious? Get out of here. Then some lady walks up, gives them a card, which refers them to a different address. to meet their contacts, 78211 Ocean View. So now at this new location, with his goon already having the weapon drawn, he finds a guy named Speed Styles, a weapons runner. And then Guerrero gives him a litany of weapons they need, which Speed tallies up and says it's going to cost 3.4 USC. And then Guerrero says he wants baseballs, which Speed here balks at. He's like, whoa, that's some big stuff. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, it's going to raise a lot of red flags on my end. Too much attention is going to be drawn. Guerrero ends up threatening him, says, you're going to make this deal. I guess he puts together one of the guns that was on display and pretty much draws down on him and says, yeah, we're going to make a deal. He's like, yeah, okay, deal made. So now he's going to get the baseballs that he wants.
Now where Crockett and Tubbs arrives at Guerrero's place, Tubbs is on the phone with Trudy, which she confirms all the other Johns have alibis, so Guerrero is definitely their guy. He then pulls up. Crockett and Tubbs try to follow, but they are stopped at the gate. It happens to be the consulate of Chile.
Chile, don't they? They make some pretty good wine grapes, don't they, Tim? We know firsthand.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. Next, we see Switek in the nondescript van.
This is the van, which I missed the Bugbuster scheme of this. I definitely wish they would have kept that up.
Yep. But you didn't have Zito, so
yeah, wouldn't pan out, I guess.
So Stan is keeping an eye on the consulate. Crockett and Tubbs phones him, and he reports not much is happening. Just then, Guerrero is on the move, and the trio move in to pull him over. Crockett doesn't give two turds who he is. In Chile, in Miami, he means squat, because he was just, do you know who I am? That whole thing. Well, Crockett is grilling Guerrero. Other dignitaries exit the consulate. Yes, foreign dignitaries. One of those is DEA agent Brody, who helps out Guerrero. Tubbs says he is being questioned for 2 murders, which nullifies the DEA cut-in. Brody says be in his office tomorrow.
Rico, read him the card.
Cut him loose.
The hell are you?
Brody, DEA. This man is a guest of the Justice Department. My apologies, General Guerrero. You're free to go.
Not until this peasant picks up my gun. It's a cold day in July, pal.
General Guerrero is an ally of ours in the war against the Andean Coke cartel.
No kidding. To me, he just looks like another cattle prod specialist with an overactive libido.
Hey, look, the DEA does not have jurisdiction. Guerrero's a suspect in double homicides, and he has to be questioned.
Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., my office. Teach your friend some manners.
Don't you know who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So now we're at OCB. Crockett here is miffed and wondering if the good general, whatever they call him, isn't halfway
That's
to
what you call him, a general.
Yeah. Why, he's probably halfway on his way to Santiago by now, which would be definitely possible, right? Castillo says that there's no way that the State Department is going to give an order for any wiretap at the consulate, since Chile is anti-communist, so kind of buddy-buddy with the U.S. So there's no way they're going to try to ruffle any feathers to screw this up for one little dude and 2 deaths. But Switek says that the rental car he uses has a cell phone, and it's just a simple radio waves that they can record, which they don't need warrants for. Anybody can listen. Castillo reluctantly agrees to listening to this stuff. I'll take the next one, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
So now Brody calls Guerrero at the consulate, and he's in his he's looking super smooth here, wearing silk pajamas, obviously living the high life. All he needs is a Miller High Life beer. So Brody wants to get him out of the country, but Guerrero here is not willing to leave until his business is finished. He wants the weapons and the baseballs that he ordered up. Brody isn't having any more of him being at risk because of Guerrero's libido, and he makes it known. Brody, I'm not going to go down for you. You start screwing up, you're going to be on your own. So later, while Guerrero is driving along, he's alone on the phone. Switek, Crockett, and Gina are not too far behind in the van, listening in or trying to. Switek's able to monitor some of the conversation, between Guerrero and Styles, but static is blocking most of it out because they just can't get too close to intercept the radio waves. So they get what they can.
So now we're at OCB and the surveillance team comes in. They're dejected. All they got was one name, Styles. Gino is going to run the name. Castillo gives them info on a possibly related death at the Tropical. Team arrives at the Tropical Hotel to find Ramon the Age shot. Just so happens that Brody and the DEA were there too. All too convenient. The note left implies suicide for Ramon killing the two, so he had this remorse.
Yeah, and don't forget, Brody's there, and doesn't this look like that the heat is now off of Guerrero? Now that this guy's dead, right?
Yep. Brody even comments that Guerrero won't have to stay for questioning after all. Outside, Brody is painting quite the picture of Ramon being the killer and a solid alibi of Guerrero being away from both scenes. Switek starts to interject when Crockett silences him.
I already think here that Crockett is already stepping way over the BS that's getting knee deep here with Brody. So you could definitely tell Crockett knows kind of what's going on, but can't really get anything solid.
Yep.
So now we're at OCB. Switek, Crockett, and Tubbs are listening closely to the tapes of the phone call and trying to see what's what, what they can decipher out of this. Does anything make any sense or really matter? Switek thinks that they're shoveling snow off the beach over to Guatemala, but Crockett further states that gun running is off limits to Chile thanks to Carter. So we think. I think it was Switek or Tubbs said get this tape to somebody to clean up, one of their tech guys or something like that. So they're going to get the audio cleaned up, maybe loudened up and stuff like that. Now moving along at some payphone somewhere in Miami, Guerrero is talking to Brody about the murders. Brody thinks that Vice is onto something, but they don't know what. Guerrero lays out his plans to leave the country soon. Brody asks him when, and I'm going to think Brody's going to delay some of his travel plans here, not knowing what's going on. So he mentions an airline, which makes a return that we've talked about in the first season, Chalk's Airline.
Stop acting like an old lady. You have been well paid.
Not if I do time as an accessory to murder one.
And who am I supposed to have killed now?
Did you really think that they would buy that Ramon did himself?
Guilty conscience is a heavy burden, friend. They have nothing.
Now, they've got something. I don't know what it is. When the cops slept, they tried to cover it up. They know something. I'd bet my life on it.
If you cross me, it'll be a bet you're going to lose. Have nothing to worry about.
So now back at OCB, Crockett and Tubbs are listening to the cleaned up audio of the car phone. And we get a lot more info here. This is where we hear the cluster bombs are a go. I think they're called CBUs. Crockett clarifies that they are called baseballs of death, and it's a non-climatic point for the episode name.
Yeah, you think they would have made this a little bit more climactic. I mean, baseballs of death.
Later, still at OCB, Castillo is briefing the team on a halt of arms shipment to Chile in 1976, as well as where they get their supply. Castillo doesn't want to tip their hand about Brody. He may be rogue in a DEA. And the thing about why Guerrero wanted these particular baseballs, the U.S. version, they don't basically remain dormant until somebody steps on them.
Yeah, it would have to be activated or tripped. And then someone have to step on it again, right?
Yep.
Rather than just
versus what he could get in his own country,
right, or anywhere else. Because I think they were saying only us were the ones to make this type or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty brutal. Anyway, Crockett and Tubbs here visit an arms expert on the advice of Castillo. Castillo's contact shows films of CBUs in actions and mentions their major export item for Chile. They're asking why Guerrero would bother trying to steal them. He informs that he's trying to steal a newer version, and they call this a artillery delivered mine or a sleeper. It lays on the ground, just like I said, Tim, dormant until stepped on. Chile hasn't developed the sleeper variety yet, and the Mideast is craving them. So back at OCB, the team is pressing the phones again and getting info on whomever they can. And all of a sudden, Styles is the topic of conversation here. So now we're at a military surplus shop. Some dude fixing a truck answers a phone. It's Trudy calling in, and Styles is next to this guy. She plays it off as a wrong number. Turns out the surplus joint is next to an Air Force base, and turns out that this Air Force base is the biggest ammo depot in the South. A little bit too convenient, don't you think, Tim?
Mm-hmm. And here we go. The Wiley surplus truck is permitted onto the base. Styles and a guy break into an unlit supply room and find the baseballs. An alarm is triggered on a map. Base security rush in. They find nobody in the room. But Styles has a surplus Jeep on their truck and drives right out. Who would have thought, huh? Later at night at the drop point, Styles is waiting as Guerrero pulls up. And here we go again. Styles turns around to give Guerrero the baseballs, and when he does, Guerrero pulls a gun and shoots him down and drives away. He's just basically covering his tracks. But can't believe that this army base, this base was that lax in security that they were able to just waltz in.
Their security detail was worse than a colander, right? I mean, you did supply, didn't you, in the Army?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm going to tell you what. Oh, when you had to go to the ammo dump, first of all, you had to fill out mounds of paperwork. Then you had to go see, we saw a master sergeant who was in charge of that. He takes our stuff, fills order. Then you're not getting behind a gate without somebody up your
right. Minus all the paperwork that you got to do. You just can't, even if you had the paperwork squared away, you just can't say, I'm here.
Nope.
Right?
No. Because you have to put that paperwork in a couple weeks in advance type of stuff.
I'm assuming they already had this worked out to where this Jeep was surplus because they came in empty truckload and now they're taking the Jeep. So I'm guessing the Jeep itself was surplus and permitted and all that. So they probably just tossed it in there. And like I said, a little too convenient. But anyway, at OCB here, Brody is explaining to Vice that Guerrero is a major Latin American asset to USA. And Castillo says he's a major head case running off the books arms deals. He's pretty much going rogue. Brody is stunned. What do you mean? Crockett says that Styles and Brody used to work at the ATF, and Brody denies seeing him, for the longest time, except the phone call that he's pressed about. Whoops. Brody's digging himself a deeper hole here as they further press him on why Styles put cashola into his account. Whoops again. And then Brody is starting now to see that the deck is stacked against him.
Talking about a gun runner by the name of Styles. Wanted in 6 countries. Look familiar?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's an ex-ATF agent. Used to work for you when you were with Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And I don't suppose you've seen him since, right?
No.
No, of course not. So the phone call he made to you at your home last week must have been a wrong number.
Look, Guerrero helps us out sometimes. He was having some trouble getting some small arms. There's an embargo.
Mm-hmm. So you put him next to Styles?
Yeah. He helps us take out the garbage sometimes.
Well, your buddy sold a CBU sleeper unit from Eccles. We wouldn't have known about it except for Guerrero's got a horn for hookers. We figure he's going to get out with it sometime today. What's his exit point?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm talking about $4,000 or $5,000 CDs placed in your account by an S. Styles.
It's all legal. We have a warrant.
You can either talk to us or you can talk to the U.S. Attorney. Anybody else at DEA in on this?
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun-dun-dun.
At the consulate, there's a brief scene where Guerrero is dressed all in white and he's admiring his baseballs. At a not heard about in a long time airline hangar, Chalks, Guerrero gets out of a taxi, still sharply dressed in his white suit, and gets ready to board a plane. But Tubbs and the team are waiting. Tubbs walks behind Switek, hiding by a building. Crockett on a scare. Guerrero sees Castillo, looks around and sees Switek, and he starts to get nervous. Pilot is asked to delay. Guerrero gets more nervous, then grabs a lady as a hostage. The team draws down on him. He calls their bluff and wanting to shoot the case full of baseball. He forces lady to grab the case and make their way onto the plane. They get on a plane and it starts taxiing. Crockett is told to stay with the plane as it doesn't have enough fuel. Fisherman sees the plane making a safe landing, comes to help, and for his good Samaritan troubles, he is shot dead by Guerrero, who hops on the boat and takes off with Crockett in tow. After a spectacular jump off some construction equipment, Guerrero crashes into a small island and kaboom. End of episode.
Boom. And this is the only good ending I could find. Kaboom. All right. IMDb gives this rating a 7.5. Tim, your thoughts?
Mark, this is a far better episode than the previous two, and I agree with this rating. When we ended our last podcast with an oh boy because of the title of this episode, which on the surface might have turned out to be a corny episode, it did not. Although one might question why the OCB team was involved again, this question was quickly answered by Gina that this homicide became vice with the murder of a prostitute. The only negative was the very long opening scene, but it did set the stage for the remainder of the show. This episode was about gun running and the quest for the CBU or cluster bombs by General Guerrero, also called a captain by Styles. Who knows what he is, but we'll assume he's a general. The biggest obstacle for the OCB team was the feds running interference for the general because he was allegedly going to take out the cartel in Chile. Sonny explains the names Baseballs of Death, which clarified my reservations about this episode. Overall, what made this a great show was the team getting back to good old-fashioned police work. Mark?
Yeah, this was definitely a far better episode than the last two. Strong story for sure with international intrigue and power play, sort of, which I guess could have been, ripped from the headlines in some form or fashion. Great characters and actors who are playing them. And as you said, back to vice issues, in this prostitute murder. They could have kicked this higher up to DEA staff or let U.S. District Attorney tackle it. But Vice went it alone and got the bad dudes, including a bad DEA agent. Brody, he pretty much folded more than a paper airplane. He should have dropped and given Castillo 20. He was definitely worthless and weak.
You're all worthless and weak. Drop and give me 20.
And, from the get-go, I thought that this translator at the meeting in the beginning that Guerrero was eyeballing, was going to be a bigger role than she didn't turn out to be. But alas, it was just to show, his big libido. He likes the women. The only nagging question, other than the fate of Brody, we're assuming, it was under the rug, firing, no charges, is why didn't Guerrero have the baseballs just shipped with the other arms that he purchased? I mean, he had this litany of stuff that he wanted, guns and whatever else. Why is he carrying these baseballs? I mean, I know they were the big thing that he wanted. He paid big bucks for it, but this could have been, he probably could have gotten away. But anyways.
Oh, the only thing is that we never did see the delivery of the other stuff.
Right, we didn't. So that's why I'm saying. Right, it was just this case. I guess we wouldn't have definitely had the boom at the end, right, Tim?
Right, and then hence the name Baseballs of Death.
Baseballs of Death.
So now we're going to move on to the music portion of our episode here. First, we have Pump Up the Volume by Mars, and it's the opening where Cinder's walking down a street. Then there's 20 Kilohertz by Gene Loves Jezebel, and that's when Guerrero was at Woody's. I Can't Break Away by Big Pig, when Styles gets the CBUs, then he is killed by Guerrero. Finally, Running on the Rocks by Shriekback, where Guerrero tries to escape on the plane and boat.
And there really is no listed Jan Hammer music showing up in this episode. All right, back to our goofs, fun facts, and locations. Our first goof at the beginning of the episode where Roan shoots Shane Dubois. The shot is loud, even though the pistol is clearly fitted with a suppressor. But when Guerrero shoots Cinder with the same gun and suppressor, the gunshot is now suppressed, as it should be.
Our first location is the Ingram Building, 25 Southeast 2nd Avenue in Miami, when Cinder is walking down the street.
Another location, Greenwich Studios parking lot, 12100 Northeast 16th Avenue in North Miami. That was Wiley's Military Surplus.
And we have the Miami Boat Basin, which is next to Miami Marine Stadium, Virginia Key. Guerrero this is where he lands a plane and steals a boat, and then a boat goes kablooey.
Boom. All right, now the time for the trivia. Last episode, we skipped it because of our Christmas episode. So if you remember way back to the Cows of October episode, we asked, when Rojas reads Izzy's list of accomplishments, what did he say was Izzy's full name? And that is Isidor Francisco Moreno. Tim, what do you got for this one? And don't forget, we've got a bonus. I'll throw the bonus in after that.
Okay, so for this episode, in the very opening scene, what now defunct store is shown? You can post your answers on this episode's Facebook post, or you can email us at miamivice@duck.com. And Mark, what do you have as the bonus?
And the bonus, when we're at the consulate, when Guerrero was dressed in all white, admiring the baseballs, how many baseballs are in the case?
And now we have arrived at Mindful Music. We would like to share a quick clip of a song that we think will send some peaceful or inspiring vibes your way. With the show as well as our own lives, we might have many issues or stressful times that we encounter. With these song choices, we can hopefully quiet the mind and make those issues less of an obstacle for your day. Even though this episode will be aired after the new year, and as we said, it is December 31st, we thought we would start 2025 with a tune that expresses that sentiment. The song choice for this episode is New Year's Song by Timeless Music. Take a listen.
The clock is ticking and it's almost time. The world is ready and the stars align. A new beginnings of a brand new start is to you from my heart. This is a New Year's song. Been waiting all year long. So raise up your glass and sing along. This is our New Year's song.
Absolutely. Again, I'd like to reiterate, I wish everybody a happy 2025 coming up.
Yes, Happy New Year. And we just keep watching as the rebuilding in Western North Carolina continues after Hurricane Helene. So anybody out there that's
quiet.
Hopefully next year's quiet.
Yeah.
And if anybody out there from Western North Carolina is listening, Happy New Year. And we hope for all the best for you.
Yeah, brighter days are ahead, right, for them. Brighter days ahead, for sure. So thanks to you all for tuning in to the Vice of Miami podcast. We hope you enjoyed the look that we have to give you for the world of Miami Vice. If you love what you heard, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It definitely helps us out. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more Miami Vice goodness. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at the Vice of Miami podcast. Our next episode, which is number 88, is going to cover Season 4, Episode 15, Indian Wars. So until next time, stay stylish and keep the vice alive. Now.
My informants are mine, pal.